Yo, welcome to Melon Magic Scraps YouTube. So today we got a special treat. It's not, I'm still in the video, but I sat down with Mike Fouché, who you might have heard of. He has been doing incredibly well in the online scene, but he's also been a very established player for a while. He's been playing for, I don't know, well over a decade. Top cut, bunch of regionals, top cut nationals. And he's been doing really well in the online circuit as well, kind of a PikaRom master. He recently played in the Players Cup 3 Global Finals, and you might have also heard him on the Trash Lounge podcast. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over the PikaRom versus LucMetal matchup, and we're going to talk about the list a little bit. So I'm going to let Mike talk about the list, but this is his PikaRom list / the one I've been running. I net decked him because he is a very good player. I'm going to be completely honest there. But anyway, we're going to let him talk about it, and then we're going to look at the LucMetal list too, and then we're going to play a game, and the game is going to go a little slow. We're going to talk about decisions and stuff. And the reason for this video is the PikaRom versus LucMetal matchup is interesting. It's tough, it's slow, it's grindy, and there's a lot of interesting decisions to be made. So if you've ever wanted to just listen to, look, he does most of the talking, but if you want to listen to two good players talk about decisions, things like that, this is a very good chance. If you're interested in the PikaRom versus LucMetal matchup, this is a very good chance as well. Hopefully you enjoy the video. If you like this kind of stuff, be sure to tell me in the comment section below. I'll try and get more people who are just experts with whatever deck it is to come in and talk about the deck and a specific matchup and go over the matchup and play the matchup, because I can't be an expert in every single deck. I would love to, but I'm not that good. I'm good enough to play every deck well, but not good enough to be like, I haven't logged hundreds of games with, well, I have logged hundreds of games with Pika. I haven't logged hundreds of games with every deck. And there are people out there who have logged hundreds of games with, each individual deck. So like I said, if you like this, let me know in the comment section below and enjoy the video.
When I approach the PikaRom LMZ matchup, there are a number of things that I'm thinking about. One of the nice things about the matchup, ideally, is that LMZ always wants to go first. Pika always wants to go second. If you're LMZ and you're choosing to go second, I think that's wrong. I think LMZ should always go first. Do you agree with that?
Oh, I agree 100%. Getting the turn 1 Intrepid Sword is so powerful.
Yeah. And I feel like if LMZ chooses to go second, you're kind of just giving PikaRom an extra turn to get the Boltund out. Because sometimes PikaRom misses it going second, and then LMZ's in a really good spot. But anyway, so the main thing as the PikaRom player is you want to conserve your resources a lot. So that means you really shouldn't be playing Research or Dedenne very often in the early game if you can help it. Obviously, there's some games where you really need to dig and you have to throw away resources. But if you have the option of Marnie versus Research, it's almost always Marnie, especially if they have Intrepid sorted on the turn previous. And sometimes, even if you have a Research, you might just choose to not play it, even if you don't really have anything else going on. The matchup is pretty slow overall. So really, even if you just attach an energy, that's a pretty good turn most of the time. So you want to take it slow. You don't want to discard too many resources. The most important resources throughout the game are number 1, your energy, and number 2, your switch cards. Those are by far the most important things. Boss is a close third as well.
Now, when you say switch cards, does that include the Air Balloon, or are we talking just switch?
I would say it's mostly switch, just because Air Balloon you can almost always put down. There are situations where you want to hold the Air Balloon, but it's definitely less of a concern because it's just a playable card at any point. So I think one thing, so conserving resources is like the number 1 mindset that you need to go in. In terms of actual gameplay and attacking and whatnot, I think people underuse Electrify in the matchup. I think a lot of people think that, okay, I'm going to Electrify on the first turn, and then I'm going to go into my PikaRom and full Blitz on the second turn. And yeah, sometimes that happens, but there's a lot of games where if your Boltund survives going into their second turn, you can just Electrify again. That's totally cool. And often it's even better because LMZ's best plays, if they're not getting a turn 2 Brave Blade knockout on their Boltund, they're going to want to set up a Full Metal Wall as soon as possible. And by just giving them your PikaRom or your Mewtwo after they full blitz, that means they didn't have to boss it up. And if they full metal wall your Boltund with 1 energy, you're super happy about that. Boltund is also your best attacker in the matchup, so getting an extra Electrify off and then going into a Bolt Storm, you're threatening a two-hit KO on everything, and so that kind of forces them perhaps to go in with a Zacian earlier than they want to, because they want to full metal wall also early. So yeah, so I think just utilizing Boltund throughout the game early and electrifying is usually a pretty good strategy.
So could you kind of say
Yeah.
that's like a game of chicken essentially, where you're just like, you're both sitting there, they're using Intrepid Sword, you're using Boltund, and you're like, one of us has to do something, and you're applying pressure to make it them do something.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to put it. I played against Joshua Sutherland, who's a really great LMZ player, maybe a couple weeks ago in the matchup. And that's pretty much exactly what happened. I just kept using Electrify, and he kept using Intrepid Sword. And eventually, he was pretty much forced to bring up his Zacian to KO my Boltund, which I was cool with because I just had another Boltund. And then I had Electrified enough that I was just like one-shotted his Zacian. The game kind of progressed from there, and I ended up winning. But if you like force out your PikaRom or Mewtwo early on, it just becomes more awkward for you. You know, you put a tag team up. Both players really want to pressure the opponent's boss's order as a resource. You know, we each only have access to 3, maybe 4 if you count the Eldegoss. Some LMZs play 4, and so you're also trying to, throughout the game, you're trying to make it awkward for your opponent to take their prizes. So that means I want, as the PikaRom player, to force them to 2-shot a tag team, but I don't want, like, I want a tag team to take a hit and then go back to the bench and force them to boss it back up. And so maybe I, attack with the full blitz and then go. If they full metal wallet, that sucks because now that tag team doesn't have energy anymore. I want the energy to stay on my tag team, so they're forced to attack into it and then go back to the bench, if that makes sense. And by doing this, you're also conserving energy so Boltund can attack for more later on.
I'm curious, you keep saying tag teams. Is there a specific, like, do you want Peak? Do you want Raichu? Do you want Mewtwo? Do you want all of them? Like, what are we attacking with?
That's a good question. I think it changes a little bit every game. I would say the most common, in an ideal world, I would have 1 Mewtwo and, well, Mewtwo. I think I always want Mewtwo. I think I don't want 2 Mewtwo though because of the resistance on the Lucario Metal. So I want the option to attack with a different one. Raichu in theory is the better one to have out, but it's also a little bit more awkward if you're forced to get rid of some switching cards early on, some switch early on, because it benefits so much from having those extra pivots in order to tandem shock. So sometimes having the PikaRom as the second tag team is fine, but you definitely always want 2. Usually you don't want more than 2 because you want your bench. You always want at least 2 Boltunds also on the board. Where almost always you want 2 Boltunds on the board to be able to threaten a Bolt Storm, and then you need a couple spots for your support Pokemon as the game goes on.
That makes sense. So in addition to resource management of energy, bench management matters a whole lot in this matchup.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Speaking of which, deciding when to use Tapu Koko is also a really big deal. You don't want to use it early on generally, unless you're using it to power up like a Bolt Storm knockout on something. Usually you want to save it as late as you can, maybe the turn after they full metal wall, but sometimes you don't even need it the turn after they full metal wall. And you also you don't mind playing it early on in the game, but you don't want to keep it on the bench too long because then they can actually threaten like a boss knockout on it, and then that's super awkward. So there's kind of like there's a little bit of I don't know, time management with the Koko as well. So yeah, that's something to think about. Um, I feel like that's most of the main general things. Do you want to talk about some of the cards that are good on both sides to
Yeah.
in the matchup?
So
Okay. Yeah.
let's start with the peak list first. So what are some things that
Okay.
PikaRom either you're already playing or like we can add to the deck if we are afraid of Luke LMZ? Because like the deck will come back at some point. It's one of those decks that never dies.
Yeah, for sure. So I think by far the best card you can play in the matchup is a 14th energy card. So this list has 14 energy. Some lists, many lists will only run 3 speed lightning, which I think is very fine. I've recently dropped like my 3rd Cherish Ball Electromagnetic Radar spot for the 4th speed. From a consistency perspective, they're pretty similar. But yeah, 14th energy I think is the #1 card that you can play to improve the matchup. I think having 4 Boltund is really nice. So that's another card that I already have for some other reasons, but incidentally helps the matchup a lot. Another card that I already have is a Big Charm. Big Charm is not amazing in the matchup, but it's pretty good. It allows either Boltund to survive the 2-shot from Lucario Mewtwo from doing 50 and then 150, or you can throw it on a Pika, and then Pika survives the Lucario Mewtwo's first attack plus a Brave Blade. So those are the cards that I do have. Some cards that I don't have that are good in the matchup. Team Yellgrunt is very good in the matchup. It's not something that is included for the LMZ matchup. It's included for the Eternatus matchup primarily, but it is actually very good in the LMZ matchup because energy, just slowing them down with their energy attachments is pretty strong in general. So that's really good. We talked about switching outs being very nice. So running a 3rd air balloon can always be helpful. I've seen some lists even run an escape rope now that's legal. I haven't really tried that at all, but that could be, I'm sure that would be good in the matchup as well. And the last card is a 4th Boss's Order, would be very strong. We talked about that a little bit of kind of pressuring the other person to have boss consistently, and so a 4th boss would be really nice.
Awesome. So let's take a quick look at the LMZ list. All right, so here's the LMZ list that I am going to be challenging Mike with. This is a slightly different one from the one that's the most popular right now, which is the tag call version that has been championed by Josh Sutherland. Shout out to Josh. The deck is ridiculously good. Not the best against Peak. So this list is kind of in between that one that takes the good ADP and Fire matchup, but has a better PikaRom matchup. So let's look at what are some of the good cards that we've got in here, as well as some of the cards that we don't have that would improve the Peak matchup if you're exceptionally afraid of PikaRom. So some of the stuff that we've got are the 2 Malolanas. Malolana good, you get the heal, minus 30, PikaRom does 120. Conveniently, Malolana heals 120. But we could add a 3rd one. Definitely a strong card. Another thing that we've got, you got the cheeky power plant that you could pull off. Not really that good in that matchup. The tag calls do help us get those Malolanas. We've got the tools, just the generic stuff of like, we just want to tank and we want to make the hits for as little as possible. So the minus 30 from the goggles is quite nice. What else could we add though?
I think the biggest thing that LMZ lists are not playing anymore that made the matchup much closer was Crushing Hammers, because LMZ really wins the matchup by, again, pressuring resources, and so pressuring energy in combination with Full Metal Wall is very strong, because after a Full Metal Wall plus goggles, full blitz, not doing very much damage. But so the main damage output from the PikaRom player is coming from Boltund's Bolt Storm. And so if you're able to take off an extra 30 or 60 damage from that throughout the game, that can be the difference from Zacian getting one shot or not. So that's a big one. And then I guess just kind of in general, you've already alluded to it, but the difference between a list with 4 professors research and anything less than that is huge, like tremendous. I played one of my last rounds of the Players' Cup in NA against an LMZ list that ran 2 research. And so that's more than the popular tag call lists that are going around now. But even still, 2 research is just not really enough to make the matchup even close to even, in my opinion. Because what happens is, if the PikaRom player Marnies you, you have to hit so much stuff just in those 5 cards. And what often ends up happening is you don't, and then you have to Intrepid Sword, and then you get Marnied again. So if the PikaRom player is able to Marnie most times that you Intrepid Sword, you're always working with so few resources that you're not really able to respond to the plays that they're keeping up. So I just want to get that point across, that research is so big for recovering off of Marnie and keeping up with the tempo of a PikaRom.
Yes, thank you for elaborating on that, because the tag call version, one thing not mentioned is it loves to have a gigantic hand. It's one of the reasons it beats Welder decks, is they play like 1 stamp maybe, and if they stamp you to 6, who cares? So Peak really loves Marnie, and you just heard Mike talking about from the Peak side, you want to Marnie every single turn, essentially. Like, that's your supporter of choice most of the time. LMZ, you don't really get to play out of the hand that much against the Peak, Peak. So research, it both thins the deck out of stuff to prevent the stamps from really bodying you, and you can actually draw cards, which is very nice.
Yeah, exactly. Other than that, the only other card I can think is like a 4th boss is pretty good in the matchup for the same reason that it's good on the Peak side.
Yes, Gust is ridiculously powerful right now. Being able to KO squishy stuff. We talked about this a little bit before, but one of the best ways for LMZ to win is you Brave Blade the Boltund ASAP, and then you just go boss Dedenne, or boss those 2 prizers. Ignore the tag teams, KO 2 Boltunds and a squishy thing on the bench, and don't even bother with 2-shotting a Mewtwo or whatever.
This is a really great hand, starting hand from Pika. You see I have research, but I'm pretty comfortable getting rid of this hand. So this is like an ideal research turn. So like I said, typically you would want to Marnie on the first turn because they're going to Intrepid Sword. But I'm cool with research just because the hand is so good. All right, so we're really hoping he whiffs the Intrepid Sword energy here. He does, which is huge. That's like, so already I'm feeling super good about this game because he's not even threatening a turn 2 Brave Blade. If I hit one of these hammerheads, I'm feeling exceptional. Okay, this is really nice. So we obviously play Koko. Flipping this first hammerheads is even also really good because now I can quick ball away the hammer. If I flip tails, I'm not sure. I would probably, if I flip tails on the first one, I'd probably just quick ball away the second hammer. If he had gotten an energy off of the Intrepid Sword and had 2 energy on, I would be forced to play both hammers down and probably quick ball away the Air Balloon over the energy, I think.
Where do we ideally, does the balloon go on Boltund, or does it go on whatever we tag or quick ball for?
I think it goes on Boltund because with this, now I can, this is a time where I actually do want to turn 2 full blitz, I think, because yeah, I think I at least want to leave the option open to turn 2 full blitz. Yeah, I think this is correct. But I would have quick balled away the Air Balloon if I flipped tails on this first hammer. Okay, so now's an interesting choice. So just quick prize check. I'm not gonna do the whole 6 prizes, but like Eldegoss is clearly prized. We have a stamp prize. Swell is in here. That's important to check. We prized 1 switch, 1 boss, and 1 energy.
For anyone watching, do you see how quick that prize check was? That's when you know you've been playing a deck long enough. It should take about that long.
So even if I'm not writing them down, it should, like, yeah, if you're familiar with the deck, you should be like, okay, yeah, I know more or less. So the question here is like, do you get Mewtwo or do you get Pika? I'm not sure there's a, there's not really a clear answer. I think I'm gonna get Pika just to ensure that I have turn 2 full blitz, because I'm already in such a good spot right now that I think getting a turn 2 full blitz is just so important. And I would full blitz onto a Mewtwo if I draw Mewtwo.
I also like the Pika a lot there because it's obviously one less piece you need, which is getting it in the discard, because you ideally already want a full blitz, right? And you play one Swell, there's a chance if you go with Mewtwo, the plant could stick, and that would be just detrimental. So the Peak has kind of two benefits. It's already the attack we want to use, and it has the attack on the card. Mewtwo doesn't.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay, so this is a really like bad hand now. So I'm like not gonna do anything else now. So for a couple reasons. So I'm just gonna electrify. I really want them to Marnie me. So by not playing anything, you know, I keep a larger hand and give them a more incentive to Marnie me. Further, like the only playable card that I have is Radar. So I could like Radar away PikaRom and Boss, I guess, and grab like Raichu and Dedenne. But I'm never Dedenne away this hand because it has 2 switch in it. So we'll just electrify.
This obviously isn't the topic of the video, but the idea of baiting your opponent into Marnieing you is a super interesting idea and something that I think you'd agree with me, PikaRom can do pretty darn well.
Yeah, absolutely.
My turn. Could look at my deck for the first time. That's exciting. Sure. There we go. Deal with this.
All right, so he's got this Intrepid Sword. I drew a 3rd switch. Okay, so I don't think we're ever researching here. This is a very interesting situation. So I have a couple options. I could play the Crushing Hammer. I don't know if I really like playing the Crushing Hammer. I could play it. I think I don't even have an energy. If I had an energy, I would go into full blitz for sure. I think what I want to do is I want to just electrify to this second PikaRom. Spread my energy out.
Why are we choosing Peak over Raichu here?
Well, I don't want to play this Radar.
That's fair.
Because I don't want to discard anything. This is really, I don't want to discard anything really. Also, by electrifying to the second Pika, it prevents a boss full metal wall, because you know if I electrify to a Raichu, then I can't like get my energy back by full blitzing essentially. So I think I'm gonna just electrify to this Pika. The question is, do I boss this up? I think the answer is yes. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna boss the Lucario Mewtwo, hopefully preventing a knockout. And I think I'm actually gonna electrify 1 and 1 because I don't have an energy in my hand. I think I am also just gonna play this hammer. I don't think there's a good reason to hold it, especially because you have a coating on here. Okay, so that's really good. Maybe I shouldn't have bossed then. I probably should have played the hammer. I should have played the hammer first if I was going to play it.
Is this the optimal hammer art to flip heads?
Oh yes, absolutely. The OG hammer, dude. Like
that definitely bodied my turn a lot more than you might realize.
So again, this is like the name of the game for both decks, is like make it as awkward as possible for your opponent.
Right. Yeah, awkward for me right now is an accurate state.
Okay. It's like, I'm pretty okay with this. He had to use a Metal Saucer. He had to use a Malolana. I'm pretty cool with this. All right, that's pretty good draw. We're not using Koko yet, so I still really don't want to research away 3-switch. But there's like now I've used the hammer, I've used the boss. So like it's considerable to do it. But the fact that I drew this Boltund makes me just want to go full blitz onto this second PikaRom. I probably don't play the Boltund then.
If you play the Boltund, I
don't-
assume we're afraid of a boss switch play.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to play Boltund just in case you have switch boss. We could pop Koko, like that. I'm a little scared of that play with popping the Koko as well, but if you're using a switch boss and killing my Koko, that's probably okay, to be honest. Like killing Boltund would be much worse. So we are just going to full blitz. So another thing about not researching there is if I research, I have a pretty high chance of drawing one or more lightning energies, and then I don't get the full effect from the full blitz.
Anyone who's played Peak long enough has felt that happen before.
Yeah.
As much as I don't want to do this.
Oh, nice. So this sets up a lot of energy on my board now. So now whenever I do set up another Boltund, I'm doing a lot of damage. So do you retreat here to the DAA? Yeah, right? Yeah.
I think so, because it saves the energy and it saves the... What's it called?
Yeah.
The one with goggles on.
Right. Okay, so I was pretty fortunate. I drew a boss. If I didn't have a boss here, but I had like Quick Ball, I would very highly consider, well, I guess Power Plant's on board. So like the best I could do is Crobat. So, but I do have the boss. So let's talk about, I do have the boss. So what am I bossing? Am I bossing this to kill it, or am I bossing this to hit it?
How big of a deal is taking out the Lucario Melmetal in this matchup versus just like...
Not that, yeah. It's not that big a deal, but I do want to like conserve my energy. And like by hitting it, I'd probably just take the knockout.
You were down 3 hammers? Yeah.
Down 3 hammers, yeah. But like this Zacian is also not like a huge threat now for the rest of the game, because it's always like I can always kill it whenever it comes up.
That's true. It's a GX away after IGX, but an option.
Right, exactly. So I think regardless, we're always quick balling for a Boltund here.
Do we ever? Oh, we never speed first. Never mind. That was a stupid question.
Yeah. So we always get Boltund here because we want to set that up. We're going to attach the Boltund. I'm really not sure about, I'm not really sure about this. Knowing that Eldegoss is prized makes me want to just take the knockout, kinda. I also don't have a switch in my hand, but I have research to draw cards now. Drawing research was pretty big there, I would say. So I think I'm going to do this. I think either play is very considerable, though.
Yeah, getting this knockout as a LucMetal player feels very bad on my end. Why would you full blitz to the Boltund there?
As opposed to what?
I don't know, putting a 5th energy on peak. Or 4 and 4.
Well, I have to assume that you're going to full metal wall. So if I put the 4, if I put it on the active, I'm just like giving up an extra energy. If I put it on the bench, then if you have boss, then I'm giving up an extra energy. So I don't really see any reason to put it anywhere else besides the Boltund.
I know that's kind of a
Yeah,
softball
honestly,
question, but it's got to be
yeah,
said.
yeah. I think like if I had a Crobat or a Dedenne on the board, I would actually just attach it to that.
Interesting. How come?
Because Coco's gonna get popped at some point, and so Boltund's always just like one attachment away. And like the Crobat or Dedenne is just never going to. It never has a target really, so it's like that energy is just always sticking around.
Okay. So now, I was also going to ask you why you took your prizes in that weird order, but that'll be a future issue. So now I'm curious about your best play on my end. I currently have a boss's orders.
Mm-hmm.
I assume bossing the 4 energy peak is worth using the 1 boss, because that makes your Boltund hit for that much less.
Yeah, I think it's. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on if you have other supporters in your hand and what else you can do in your turn. I think bossing is fine as long as you have a decent follow-up on the next turn.
Which I do.
Yeah.
Because the other choice this turn would be well, actually, I could research, which isn't the worst play in the world, but.
So, like, coming, like, on my next turn, my ideal play probably 7, 8. My ideal play is probably just hit you with Boltund. So I guess minimizing damage is good in general, but also like if I hit you with Boltund and you can respond the following turn with the Zacian, which seems really unlikely, like you would need to hit 2 saucers in the next 2 turns. I mean, but that would be like that would probably win you the game if you are able to KO my Boltund next turn.
Yeah, that's a fair. If I draw the absolute everything.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and trust my gut and see what happens. Because now the most you can do is 220. Oh, wait. No. Yeah. It's 10 plus. But then you need the absolute. You need an energy, a switch, a boss.
Yeah. All right. I think we're going to get another Boltund here, and we're going to end up Cocoing 1 to this new Boltund and 1 to something else. Not sure what yet. But I think setting up, like, my main attacker now for the rest of the game is Boltund. So I want to have 2 more Boltunds to attack. We're going to Cherish Ball probably for Mewtwo and just discard it. But, well, I'm definitely getting Boltund here. I know that much. I also have a Cherish Ball. I don't think I ever stamp here. There's no reason to. Right?
That's going to be my question. Like, I got the boss, so it's like, is that the optimal turn for me? But I would agree with that.
Like, I have to assume that you have a draw supporter because you played. Well, actually, I don't have to assume you have a draw supporter. I would generally assume that you did, but like you didn't have saucers. That's the only thing I'm scared of, right? I'm scared of saucers, and you didn't have any, so I don't want to give you more cards to see them.
Yes, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I think here I'm going to get Raichu and discard it, and then maybe I'll play... It gives me the option to play Mewtwo and Tandem Shock later in the game, but I don't really want to play Raichu down this game because I already have 2 tag teams out. All right, Big Charm is going where? Big Charm is going...
So if we're planning to attack with Boltund, would it make sense to go on the Boltund because that prevents the 50-150 play? Or do you think you're going to 2-shot me regardless, so it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little scared of like a Malolana on this. So I think this probably does make the most sense. All right, if I don't hit switch here, I'm kind of in a bad spot, but I do hit it.
How unfortunate.
Okay, so we have to Coco because we need the damage output. So one of them's always going on this Boltund. I did draw the Mewtwo, but how many energy do I have left? I have 5 in the discard and 5 on the board, so I have 4 energies left in circulation. So I can realistically power up a Mewtwo, But the question is, do I just want to like put one back on this Pika and not worry about it, and not worry about powering up another tag team, and that keeps an extra bench spot open? Having the option of Tandem Shock late in the game, like Tandem Shock Stamp, is very good.
Yes.
I still have a Stamp in the deck, so it's probably worth it to do this.
Because there's always the, if I happen to pull off everything, it gives you an out that otherwise wouldn't be there.
Yeah. One thing that I have to be aware of now for the rest of the game, though, is this getting boss stalled. So I'm lucky that I'm only down the one switch, but I've had lots of games where I'm down like 2 or 3 switch at this point, and I have this Pika with 3 retreat costs on my bench that if my opponent like bosses it up a couple times, I'm just going to lose the game. I think this Stealthy Hood can go here. Alternatively, actually, yeah, let's just burn this Radar. Let's do that. That's better, I think. We'll keep the Dedenne in the deck. So I do have, yeah, 3 energies there. Okay. All right. This is a pretty clean 2-shot right now. Even through Malolana, question mark?
Well, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for you, unfortunately for me. There is no Alolan.
Yeah.
How many bosses? 2?
2, yeah.
Okay.
So that's like my main resource that I'm lacking right now. Ooh, spooky.
Guess feels better. That turn went from I'm terrified to maybe I got a chance.
Yeah. Okay, so I only have 1 play. I have to Marnie.
That Dedenne was looking juicy.
Okay, so I think I have to. So I'm really scared of getting knocked out. I really don't want to get knocked out. I kind of want to switch into something. I just don't know what. So my options are I can switch. This is the one downside of playing the Big Charm here, is I would have preferred to just put the balloon on the active and then like retreat and then save the switch. Now I have to burn a switch and save the air balloon, which is a little awkward. So my 2 options though, I can switch into the Mewtwo or the PikaRom. I think I'm gonna go into the PikaRom just to knock out the doll and get rid of it. But I don't think I keep Boltund active because it's too important.
That'd be my summon, because you can't let me keep the doll. That seems incorrect.
Yeah, and the fact that I have this balloon, I'm not going to play it now, but I could, like next turn, if you come up and, I don't know, hit my PikaRom, then I can just like balloon retreat if I really want to. I don't think I have any energies. So I still have 1 switch in the deck and 2 switch left. Yeah, there's no reason to play this balloon this turn.
That was an interesting card.
Another doll.
Go here. Grab. One of these is correct. Let's grab this one.
Yeah, I assume you're thinking between Malolana and Boss.
Yep, exactly. It's like I've got more boss in deck, but I've got a Malolana and I've got multiple tag calls left. So it's like, in theory, I have more access to Malolana than I do boss.
Right.
Well, that probably wouldn't have been a good one to talk through. It's never a bad idea.
Boss, I think, is probably more important in this situation anyway.
Go here. go third.
Okay, so yeah, I think in retrospect, probably the Big Charm on the Pika would have been better, but that's okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
happened to be the way
flip-
it played out. It was like,
yeah, hard to think about so many turns in advance though. I don't think this was like incorrect necessarily. Just the way that played out. So Full Blitz does kill this, right? If I want it to.
you're hitting for 120? Yeah.
So, but I lose a lot of energy if I do that. I'm still quite a ways away from Bolt 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we need 9 energies to one-shot this, right?
280, yeah.
280 minus 60. Yeah. I don't really like my position here. I don't have an attachment this turn, which sucks.
Because if we Crobat, we bench lock ourselves, which is
Yeah,
bad.
I mean,
But
I don't mind bench locking myself because, like, if you don't take a knockout next turn, then I'm also fine.
oh, that's good. That's good logic. That's good logic. I like that. That's one of those things that like I'm playing for my side, not your side. But now that you mention, it's like yeah, because we want to Eldegoss at some point, or you want Eldegoss.
Yeah. I would just Dedenne if I could, obviously, probably.
This power plant put
But
in way more work.
Yeah, the Swell is in the deck too. The other thing that I'm thinking about is I really want to get an attachment down this turn because I think I'm gonna have to be in a spot where I need to tandem shock you with the Mewtwo. And if I don't attach this turn, then that's not possible next turn. So I think the play is I have to balloon this one to prevent a boss deck out scenario because I have my fourth. You don't know this, but I have my 4th switch prized.
Yeah.
So I think I have to do this, and this, and I do get that. This could be good. So I can't research, unfortunately. We can burn this, though.
At what point are we thinning? Like, this is something that I feel like is always very difficult because you can get decked out so easily. So it's like, how are we kind of thinking like, yes, thinning is correct here versus I should keep resources so I don't lose to deck out?
I think the fact that I have a Marnie left in the deck makes me pretty confident I'm not going to deck out. Well, so you got to think about it like this also. Am I going to lose to deck out in a game that I would lose anyway? Versus am I going to lose to deck out in a game that I wouldn't lose anyway? Because those are very different, if that makes sense. So I think in this game, like I have enough cards in circulation plus this one Marnie that I feel pretty confident that I'm not going to deck out in this game if I'm going to win the game. I think there's a scenario where I could lose the game by deck out that I might have lost by attacking. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that makes complete sense. That was a great explanation of why.
So I think like in this case, yeah, I have enough cards, and all of the cards pretty much in my deck are good cards. So I want to give myself the highest chance of drawing them because I don't need that much more to win this game. I don't think this hammer matters very much.
Okay, so you do flip tails at some point.
All right, so drawing 3 prizes here is very nice. That's a good one. That's a good one. And which of these is the switch? Because that's the other one I want. Oh, I'm a god.
All right, so for my turn, I can KO Boltund or KO the Peak. So you need, let's see, if I KO the Boltund, you attach the other Boltund 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have energy left.
There's no way.
3, 4,
I
5,
have,
6,
I have
7.
plenty of energy left, yeah.
Yeah, you
But
have.
there's no way that I can. There's no way that I can win that next turn.
We have 1 basic, 2 speeds. I guess though, if I boss now, I don't have access to boss later, and then I can't.
Right.
You can wall me with a Mewtwo.
Yeah, so it seems good to hold it.
KO the active.
Yeah.
Benching another Zacian seems stupid,
Mm-hmm.
so let's not do that. Let's hope the stamp is kind.
Okay. So the fact that I've had to put the balloon here is very awkward because now I can't send anything up really without burning this last switch, which I don't want to do, I don't think. So it's going to force me to just send up Mewtwo, which means I won't be able to paralyze you. And I'm basically forced to Goss for Marnie this turn, unless I draw my Marnie or Stamp. So I have like 2/3 chance of drawing a Marnie or a Stamp.
Yeah.
But I really don't think I can burn my last switch on just paralyzing you. I think that's too risky.
Yeah, and as a reminder for the audience that probably remembers it, Mike knows I have boss in hand, and then I'm realistically energy saucer away from game. So
Right.
very important that he disrupts my hand.
Yeah, and the 30 damage right here means that I can't send up PikaRom. Actually, yeah, I have to Marnie because I also need the energy to attack me too. I can attack with PikaRom or Boltund, right? Like if I do that, I'm probably losing the game. So I think we just have to do this. Okay. Ah, that's so awkward now.
Yeah, a stamp to 2 versus a Marnie to 4 is a massive difference. Oh, and we can't speed energy. Well, we can speed energy the Mewtwo, but you don't draw from it.
Right. So I could stamp you, switch full blitz, and hope that you don't have you don't
switch.
draw. Yeah.
A switch or saucer energy or Malolana or tag call.
Yeah.
there's a lot of outs there.
Yeah.
And granted, I am LucMetal, so I could whiff.
Yeah, so I think we just have to still go for the... Drawing the stamp actually was the worst thing I could draw in my deck, I'm pretty sure. Because I'm guaranteed it if I Marnie.
Yes.
But yeah, so this was the #1 worst card that I could draw. Okay. So yeah, we have to just do this.
That's unfortunate because I lose a lot of good cards.
Oh, also, by the way, like we knew 100% that we would draw the swell. So like power plant, this was never a concern to me. Because I know 100% that I get it. So shuffling my deck is nice because it, well, I guess it doesn't matter, but shuffling my deck is a little nice because now boss is in here. Now, the one thing about my bench now is that if I wasn't bench locked, I would be able to have Dedenne for boss for game potentially next turn.
Ooh.
Now I have to like speed lightning into it.
Okay. So I have a quick ball. Is there ever a reason for me to grab a second Zacian?
I mean, to get it out of your deck.
Well, yeah, I mean, and to bench it would be the question there.
I mean, I could see it. because like I only have the access to the one boss, so, and I'm like basically forced to two-shot you for the rest of the game.
That's true, because if you boss, you win the game. So you never boss stall me.
Right, exactly.
That is something I constantly forget. I'm gonna be on. Well, because I have to. Well, I don't have to hard retreat yet. I can hide behind it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah.
Are you counting my energies?
Yeah.
Yeah. 8.
I think I attach to the active though, because I likely have to hard retreat it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the beauty of playing the research version. Look what we got.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like if you don't have research there, you're in a bad spot probably.
Okay, and I drew a switch. So now my question becomes, do I switch to doll instead of hard retreat? Which seems to make the most sense.
Yeah, I don't think there's a large reason to save the switch.
Right, like I'm pretty sure I don't want it later either.
Yeah. I mean, you're not attacking this turn, right?
No, that seems like I'd lose. Yeah, seems bad.
Yeah.
There we go. Here, you're out of hammers, so I put it here.
And now it's a game of who draws their boss first.
You have one Marnie left, so grabbing something out of the deck seems correct. You also have a stamp, but stamping into this doesn't seem necessary. Okay.
All right, so you have 3 boss. All right, let's see. We draw. We just raw drew.
Oh my god.
I mean, I had basically a 50-50, right, with the speed lightning draws.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Okay, that makes it feel better because you could have also gotten stamp as well, which would have potentially just bought in a turn.
Right, exactly. And like at the very least, I could have always Marnied into stamp.
That's true.
So there was a lot of there's a lot of things going on there.
All right, fine, Peak. I'll give you this one. But that feels like a really good example game because your early turns were awkward. Those are the types of turns where people tweet out, I lost because I'm so unlucky, who draws 3 switch.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And instead of saying that, you're like, well, I guess I just electrify, which worked.
Yeah, it did work. And you saw like I ended up using pretty much all the switch except for the one throughout the game. So like it was super important.
And you couldn't use number 4 because you would have lost.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I think that was we were lucky that was such a good example game because a lot of things went well. I mean, like a lot of things went educationally, I suppose. like the first turn, like my first turn was amazing, but then I had like a bunch of like 2 or 3 awkward turns right in a row there, and then throughout the game. So like setting up the Mewtwo was also important. Like I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that, but setting up the Mewtwo ended up being super important to have something that could be sent active. Now, alternatively, I'm actually not sure if setting up the Mewtwo was correct even because those energies could have all gone to the other Pika. And it turned out like all I needed was the full blitz plus the boss tag bolt to win the game at the end there. But maybe the game plays out differently where I do want a tandem shock. Same thing with the Big Charm. Like we realized after the fact that it went to the wrong place, but there are lots of lines of play that it could have ended up in the right place. Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of the name of the game with the matchup is like you have to make some educated choices that may not end up panning out, but you got to make the best choice with the information that you have at the time, and then look back at those choices and reevaluate. Were they correct? Were they not correct? And I think both of those choices were fine. I don't think there was a clear. Yeah, there's not a clear right or wrong based on the how the game played out.
Yeah, like it didn't inform my choices because the way I drew, I only had one choice. But there's a world where you put it on the Boltund, so I say, well, now I'm just not going to do the 50 plus 150 play. which is
Right.
It didn't happen, but it was entirely possible as well. So sometimes it's like the optimal play becomes suboptimal because your opponent just made a different play because you made the optimal play, if that makes sense. I'm sure there's a better way to word it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
Nice.
I appreciate you joining me. For anyone looking for stuff from Mike, I will have your Twitter down below. Is there anything else you want to shout out while you're here?
I'll just shout out the podcast that we do, myself, Britt Pybus, and Brent Halliburton. It's called the Trashalanche Podcast. You can find the link on my Twitter bio. We've been going every single week since August or September, so we're almost on 40 weeks in a row, I think. I think that math checks out.
It's definitely a lot.
Check that out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say, as much as I love Lake of Rage, and I think that we are amazing, Trashalanche is still better than us. We'll get there. We'll get to your level. You should definitely check it out if you enjoy podcasts. And we will catch you all in the next video. Peace out.